Hey, what's up, bae? Operation iDroid here, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get RetroArch, a multi-core emulator that allows you to play GBA, N64, PS1 games, and much more, which will all be listed in the description below on your non-jailbroken iOS device. This tutorial does require a computer and is quite a lengthy process, but it's definitely worth it. However, if you are jailbroken, there is an easier way to do this, which will be linked in the description below. Finally, if you are interested in learning how to get this without a jailbreak or a computer, unfortunately, at this time, there is no way to do that, but in the future, a way may be found. So be sure to check the description or subscribe to be notified as soon as a no jailbreak, no computer method is found. If you guys are excited to learn how to play your favorite classic N64, PS1 games, and much more on your iOS device, please hit that like button as I tried my best to make this tutorial clear and easy to follow. Now, without any further ado, let's head into the tutorial. Alright, to begin, you will need a computer that runs the Macintosh operating system, whether that's an Apple computer or you have a Windows computer. If you are on Windows, what you want to do is run a virtual machine that can run the Mac operating system, because we will be using an application called Xcode that only runs on Macintosh. So with that being said, if you do not have Xcode, go ahead and open the App Store, search Xcode, which looks like so, and install the application. If you already have Xcode installed, just bear with me for a couple of seconds while the users that do not have it go ahead and install Xcode. Now, Xcode is a pretty big file and it will take some time, so once it's done, you can come back to this video and open Xcode. Once you open Xcode, it'll just ask you for a few more things to do to actually set up the application, and once it's done, we are going to register our Apple ID under the developer account, which is completely free and easy to do. So once Xcode is installed, you want to click on Xcode at the top left-hand corner of your screen, click on Preferences, and then Accounts. Once you're on Accounts, you want to click on the plus sign at the bottom left and hit Add Apple ID. Here, you're going to type in the Apple ID that is on your iOS device that you'd like to install RetroArch on. So go ahead and fill out your Apple ID and password and then hit Add. This will allow RetroArch to actually install on your iOS device without the need of it being on the App Store or a developer account. Next, what you want to do is go ahead and close out of Accounts, and we're going to head into Source Control at the top of the toolbar. Once you click on Source Control, click on Checkout, and you're going to paste the RetroArch GitHub link that is in the description below and hit Next. Once you hit Next, you want to click on Master, hit Next, and then save the RetroArch folder in your Documents folder, just as I did here. Then it'll download all the files, which will take some time, and finally give you a RetroArch folder like so. Once you're in the RetroArch folder, you want to scroll down and find the media folder. In this media folder, we need to make a few more folders. The first folder that we're going to make is the assets folder, which you can easily do by right-clicking and hitting new folder. Make sure you spell everything correctly, because if you do end up spelling one of these things wrong, it can mess up the process down the road. So the first folder we're going to make is assets, just as I did here. The next folder we're going to do is auto config. The next folder we're going to do is called cores, and then we're going to make a folder called libretrodb. Make sure to spell all of this correctly, just as I've done. Now, once you make this libretrodb folder, go ahead and open it, and we're going to make a new folder within this folder called cut, another new folder within this folder called cursors, another new folder called rdb. Just follow what I'm doing on screen. That is the correct thing. Finally, you're going to head back to the media folder and make another folder called overlays, and one last folder in the media folder called shaders underscore, and make sure you type it just as I am typing it here on the screen now. Because like I mentioned, if you make any spelling errors in any of these folders here, the process will not work. So once you've done all of this, you can go ahead and exit the Finder window and open Xcode. Once you open Xcode, you want to go to File, Open at the top left-hand corner, and then you want to go to your Documents, click on the RetroArch folder, scroll down, click on PKG folder, and then you want to click on the Apple folder within this PKG folder, and then you want to click on the RetroArch Xcode project. That's RetroArch_iOS Xcode. It's 57 kilobytes, and that's how you'll know it's the right one. Once you open this, you want to go ahead and connect your iOS device. Click on RetroArch at the top left and make sure it's set to RetroArch iOS 9 with your actual device. As you can see, it says RetroArch iOS 9 John 6. So make sure yours is just like so, except your device is probably not called John 6, but you guys know what to do. Once this is done, you want to click on the RetroArch project at the left. Then you want to click on RetroArch iOS 9 at the bottom of the list on the left as well. Then you want to change everything in between COM and RetroArch to whatever you like. I usually just call it mine, as I've used mine in the past. I'm going to change it to mine 3. And then what you want to do is put your team to your Apple ID that we just made. Then change the destination target to your firmware. Mine is iOS 9, and then hit fix issue. Once you've done this, you want to go to the top and then hit the product schemes, edit schemes window, and make sure that all of these here are set to release. Go to test, run, profile, analyze, all of these, make sure they're set to release and not debug. Once you've done this, you can go ahead and hit close at the bottom right and then hit the play button at the top left. Once you've done everything that I've done, this will begin to build the RetroArch application on your iOS device. So once you hit play, it'll begin to go through all the process. You will get a couple of little yellow triangles, which is completely fine. What you want to watch out for is the red hexagon. If you get a red hexagon, then that means that RetroArch did not build properly, and it'll say build failed, which then you'll probably make a comment letting me know, and hopefully I can help you out. But if you followed everything just as I did on the screen up to this point, then you will not get the build failed prompt, and it'll actually say build succeeded instead, just as it's about to say for me here. Once it says build succeeded, you'll see you have RetroArch on your iOS device, but when you try to open it, it'll say untrusted developer. So what you want to do is go to your settings, go to general, go to profiles, and then in the profiles, you're going to look for the profile that has your Apple ID, click on it, then click trust. And then once you do that, you'll be allowed to open RetroArch that is on your home screen, just as I've done here. Once you open RetroArch, we're going to continue to do some stuff that does not require the iOS device. So keep your iOS device plugged into your computer, but we do not need to use it for now. The next thing we're going to do is head into our favorite web browser, and we are going to download the RetroArch course. So paste in the URL, the link that is in the description for the RetroArch course, and then hit download through your browser. Now, more than likely, I changed the link to a Mediafire link because sometimes Mega takes a very long time to download files. So whatever type of download it is, just hit download and it'll begin to download a file called iOS zip that has all of the RetroArch cores within it in a folder. So once it's done, make sure to save your file to your downloads. Now make sure it is in your downloads, or else things are going to get a little bit tricky from here. So make sure that this iOS zip file is in your downloads, and then you're going to want to unzip the file if the Macintosh computer doesn't do it automatically for you. So go ahead and head to your download. You'll see that you have a zip file, and then when you unzip this file, it'll give you an iOS folders, and once you have the iOS folder, you can go ahead and delete the .zip file because we won't be needing that anymore since we now have the folder. Once we have this iOS folder, we are going to go into another application which is called Terminal. So go ahead and search in your Spotlight for Terminal, open Terminal, and you're going to type ls, and then it's going to tell you where you are. Next, you want to type in CD downloads, which will take you to your downloads. Then you want to type in CD iOS, which will take you to the iOS folder that is in your downloads. As you can see at the top of the terminal window, it shows the little folder iOS. Next, you want to open the keychain application from your Spotlight, the keychain access, and you want to find your iOS developer certificate, which will tell you your Apple, it looks just like that as you guys saw, which will tell you your Apple ID, and next to your Apple ID it'll have some parentheses with a ton of random letters and numbers. You need these things as they're very important. Of course, I have mine blurred out for confidentially reasons, and I'm sorry that this looks like a freaking episode of Terraform Mars, bad joke. But once you've done this, you want to go back into terminal and you want to type in everything that I typed in here. Code sign space -FS quotation iPhone developer. Then you want to type in your Apple ID, parentheses, the code that is in that developer certificate, parentheses, quotation. Once you've done this, this will be the process to actually sign a core from RetroArch to your iOS device. Now I'm going to show you how to sign a core. In this case, the PCSX core, which is a PlayStation 1 core, but look, check this out. I did the wrong core. You should be doing the PSX rearmed interpreter core, which is to the top right of this one. So do not do the PCSX rearmed libretro.dylb. Do the PCSX rearmed interpreter. What you want to do is click on the file and copy the name, then put that to this to the side of your code here. Press enter and it'll say replacing existing signature, and if it says that, then you did everything right. I'll have all of this in the description if you just want to copy and paste it and just add your Apple ID and your code, which will be a bit easier on your end. So that's how you sign a core. Now this core will work on your phone. Now you're going to have to do this for every single core if you're going to use every single core, but I know I'm only going to be playing PlayStation 1 games, which we just signed, and N64 games, which I'm going to show you how to sign the N64 core now. So the N64 core is the Mupen64 core. So what you want to do is find the core that you would like to sign. You're going to type in the code sign FS iPhone developer, your Apple ID, the code, and then at the end of that string, you're going to put the name of the core that is in the iOS folder. So in this case, it's the Mupen64 Plus core. You're going to copy the name of it, the complete name of it, and paste it right beside this little line that I'll have in the description that you guys can copy, and just insert your Apple ID and code. And then once you do that, you're going to hit enter and it'll say replacing existing signature, and now this core will work on your iOS device specifically because it's signing it to your Apple ID and the code that is associated with your Apple ID. Now once we finish signing all the cores that you'd like to sign, in my case I'm only going to do the N64 and PlayStation 1 core, we're going to copy the link that's in the description to download iFunbox, and then you're going to hit the download for Mac and download iFunbox if you don't already have it, and then follow all of the steps that require you to install iFunbox. Once you have iFunbox downloaded and installed, ready to go ahead and open iFunbox, and then you're going to make sure that your iOS device is still plugged in. If you unplugged it, then make sure that you plug it right back in, and then you're going to click on the app file sharing. As you can see, it says right there, my iOS 9.1 iPhone 6 is jailed, not jailbroken. So this does work on non-jailbroken devices. So what you want to do is click on app file sharing, RetroArch, and then you want to get to the cores folder just as I did here. And now you want to drag the core that we signed from the iOS folder into this core folder that is in iFunbox. So you're only gonna, if you put a core in here that you did not sign for yourself from terminal, it will not work. It'll just crash. But we know that we signed the N64 core, the Mupen64 core, and the PS1 core. So dragging this into the core folder in iFunbox will definitely make it work on our iOS device. So there we go. I dragged these two cores into the cores folder on iFunbox, and the next thing we're going to do is learn how to get games for these cores or emulators. So click on RetroArch, open RetroArch, and then you're going to click on downloads. We're going to put our games in downloads. So to get games is very simple. What you want to do is head to your web browser, and the first website we're going to be used to getting games is doperoms.com. I like to use this website for anything besides PlayStation 1 and Nintendo DS games. So I'm going to get an N64 game, which in this case I'm going to get Super Mario 64. So I'm just going to search for it, find the game I'd like, hit download ROM, scroll down and hit download again, and the download will begin. Now this is all you have to do for N64 games, but for PlayStation 1 games there's going to be an additional step that I'll show you now. But once you have your N64 game, you just want to find it in your downloads and drag it into the downloads folder in RetroArch, just as I'm doing here. But to get PlayStation 1 games, we're going to be using another website, which is coolrom.com. I like to use this website for PlayStation 1 games because it always offers a .bin file, which is exactly what we need for PS1 games. If you don't have a .bin file, then it's probably not going to work. So I'm going to go to coolrom.com, navigate to the PS1 ROMs, and I'm going to get Digimon World. So to download it, just click on the game you'd like, scroll down, click on download now, and then it'll tell you that you need to play a video to get your download, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. So just play that video just as I did here, and then hit download your file, and it'll begin to download your file. Additionally, we will need the PS1 BIOS, which you can find the link to that in the description below. Paste that into your URL and it'll give you a page like this, and you want to download the PSX BIOS scph1001.exe just like I did here. So once your PS1 game is done downloading, it may give you a .7z file which you can extract using an application from the App Store called the Unarchiver, just as I'm doing here. And once you extract this .7z file, which is a compressed file similar to a zip file, it'll give you a folder with a .bin file, which is what we need for PlayStation 1 games. So once you finish extracting that and it gives you the folder, find the .bin file of your PlayStation 1 game and drag that into the downloads in iFunbox. Once you do that, we need to add the scph1001 bin file into our RetroArch application by going to RetroArch, the RetroArch folder, and then going to the system folder, and then you're going to drag the scph1001.bin file into the system folder. And once you've done that, we're good to go. You can open RetroArch, and what you want to do is go to the online updater and you want to click everything but Core Updater. Please do not click Core Updater, as it will mess up your whole RetroArch. So just click Update Core into Files, Update Assets. If your application crashes, then that's fine. Just continue where you left off. And once you finish updating all your stuff, we can now begin to use RetroArch. So once the online updater is done, you can go back at the top left. Then you're going to click on the settings at the bottom right, and then you're going to scroll down to the on-screen overlay. Then click on Overlay Preset, and from Overlay Preset, you're going to go into Gamepads, and from Gamepads, you're going to click the gamepad for the core that you'd like to use. If you're playing N64 games, then click on the N64 overlay. If you're playing PlayStation 1 games, then click on the PlayStation 1 overlay, just as I'm doing here. Once you have your PlayStation 1, I've said PlayStation 1, I'm sorry, overlay, and you can go back to the home at the bottom left, and then what you want to do is select File and Downloaded, and then that will take you automatically to where our ROMs are in the Downloads folder. And then once you click on the game you'd like to play, click on the core that you'd like to play it with, which in this case is the PSX core, and you'll notice that it won't work, which is completely fine. What you want to do is click on the RetroArch icon in the middle, and then you want to go to the core options right here, and you want to change enable interlacing to on, just as I'm going to do right here. Once you turn that on and you go back to playing your game by clicking resume content, then the actual game will play, as you can see here, instead of being just a black screen. And that's all you have to do to get the PlayStation 1 games working. But the N64 games will work automatically, and I'll show you how to play the N64 games in just a second. But as you can see, PlayStation 1 games are working just fine on my iPhone 6, running at almost full speed. I would say it's running like at 98%, with 100% being full speed. But with that being said, we're going to go back to the main menu, go to load content, and like I mentioned, if you click select file and downloaded content, it'll take you to the folder that our ROMs are in, instead of taking the long way as I did here. But once you click on Super Mario 64 or your N64 game, it'll begin to work. But as you can see, I still have the PlayStation 1 overlay, so I'm going to head to the settings, go to on-screen overlay, and then change the overlay preset to N64 by going to gamepads and hitting N64 and the N64 overlay. So now when I go back to the game, I have the N64 overlay and it's working just fine. And that's how you can play N64, PlayStation 1, or any other core that you decided to sign on your iOS device using RetroArch. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, then please hit that like button, as it helps out the video tremendously. Share this video with a friend and show them how they can get RetroArch on their iOS device. A lot of people requested this video from me, and I'm so happy to finally have it out for you all. I hope you guys enjoy playing your games. Send me some screenshots on Twitter at Operation iDroid. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you have not hit the subscribe button yet, I highly recommend you do so for more awesome tutorials like this one. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing and welcome to the operation.